Before I start this predictions video, I want to quickly say a few things about Jim Ross, of course, who announced his retirement earlier in the week from WWE, and it seems pro wrestling in general on an on-screen and backstage perspective to focus on other personal ventures, including, of course, his very delicious barbecue sauce. Now, Jim, it was an honour meeting you a couple of weeks ago, as the picture currently on screen evidence. You are a fantastic talker off the mic as well as on it, and honestly, your commentary made professional wrestling for me and millions of other people in the 90s and early 2000s and even mid-2000s fantastic to listen to, and even, I would even say, the people beforehand in your territory days. You, to be honest, have personified good wrestling commentary for us, and we're going to miss seeing you around and hearing about your opinions and from everything. It's going to be really difficult for many to understand and realise, wow, Jim Ross is never going to be behind the mic again on TV. It's something that still hasn't really sunk in. And a lot of people are saying, oh, it was due to the handling of the 2K14 panel that you got let go, apparently. But you know what? If anything, you decided to go on your own terms in the end of it. You came to an amicable reasoning to say, look, I'm going to step down, I'm going to just live the rest of my life in the way I want to. And if your talks are anything to go by, you have a successful career lined up for you, because it was a blast. And honestly, Jim, I wish you the best. I wish you the best in your retirement and your future endeavours with your personal ventures. And I hope it all goes well. From me and from every other wrestling fan around, we hope for nothing but the best for you. Thank you, JR. Thank you.
I'm feeling 10 feet tall, unstoppable, I'm the champion, Why you coming back for more? I'm undefeatable, I'm the champion.
Hey guys, CreamCrazy here. Welcome to my Night of Champions 2013 predictions video. Now, this is one of those pay-per-views where I wouldn't normally be excited for it, because Night of Champions hasn't really given me any, well, moments or matches to really be excited about in the last couple of years. But the fact of the matter is, the same thing is the same. You know, this year I am not that excited for it, but it is a wrestling pay-per-view and I love my analysis, so therefore it's just another field day at the office for me. Fact of the matter is, this card is really a two-match card, and that's what a lot of people are focusing on. I'll focus on practically everything, because that's technically what I do. Now, the honest thing is, this pay-per-view on paper looks, to be honest, alright. And I don't know how it's going to go, because WWE have been on a rise of quality shows since WrestleMania. I mean, they've been on an upward trend, and SummerSlam practically peaked off a fantastic trend. So, I'm wondering where this would go. Because Night of Champions has to keep that trend going. Even if it slips up a little bit, it still has to be relatively high for me to think, okay, it's consistent with the Raw and SmackDown product, which has been pretty stellar. And I'm not sure what they will do, so there's a little bit of intrigue for me. There is also a bit of intrigue of which titles are going to change hands, because remember, all the champions are heels. So I'm kind of wondering, would WWE do what they would do and have the heels be annihilated on this night, or would they give heels a chance to actually be successful for a change? Who knows? And there's a lot of things you can really factor in, but I don't know what to go for. Anyway, let's go on to the first match of the evening then, shall we? And that is the, well, before the whole show even begins, we have a tag team turmoil match, because the winners of that will face The Shield later on in the evening, and I'll go on to that match in a minute. Now let's take a look at the teams we've got here, because we've got the Real Americans, the Usos, the Primetime Players, 3MB, and, well, the Dancing Hippos. I was going to say the Funkasauruses, or Sweet Tea and Brodus Clay, but no, the Dancing Hippos is still something I will call them. Now, this should be more difficult than it actually is. Because if you look at the idea of where these teams are, it should be obvious as to who is going to win this. 3MB, well, they're technically jobbers. I would definitely say they'd be the first out. Or technically they would be the quickest eliminated, I would say. Because remember, the Tag Team Turmoil is not a ginormous tag team battle royal. Two teams start, one's pinned or submitted and eliminated, the other comes in, and so forth until one team is left. Now, honestly, there was one thing I did factor in when I was talking to NJ the other day, that maybe the Los Matadors could make a surprise appearance and almost win this thing. But you know what, that would be a bit too soon. The hype train is still building for them. It wouldn't really be the best place for them to show themselves off. Plus, WWE, unless they're a real big douchebag heel, they don't like to have people lose on their first match in the company. In fact, to be honest with you, everyone making a debut seems to win their first match, so it wouldn't happen that way. Then, I would probably say the Dancing Hippos wouldn't have much of a chance, because they haven't really appeared on TV very much. I mean, their valets are getting more publicity on TV than they are. That says something. Then we get down to the three teams who actually have a chance of winning this thing. The Usos and the Real Americans. I mentioned this in my blog when I had an idea, when I tried to question why Darren Young's sexuality was not mentioned on television, that those two teams have done more than the primetime players to get a title shot. In fact, the fact of the matter is the Usos have actually had title shots, but of course they have lost them. And one thing that annoys me is that, speaking of losing, the Real Americans have not won clean, or at least won properly, in singles competition or tag team competition in recent weeks. So it makes them look even worse as tag team title contenders, which wouldn't be good. I mean, I would love to see the Real Americans go up against the Shield or anyone else, but because it's heel on heel, it wouldn't work. And the primetime players have just had that win streak, which I have to, again, in the blog, I did question as a fan, do they deserve it? Does a hot streak suddenly make them contenders? Usually it would do, but in professional wrestling, a hot streak counts for nothing. Because you could win fuck all like Ryback and still get a championship opportunity. So, you know what I mean? It just... honestly, the primetime players are going to win this because of the streak they're on, because of the recent push. And... you know what I mean. I just keep thinking to myself, they're gonna win because it just makes sense, but you know the rest of it. But then we of course get to the match itself. The Shield versus whoever wins the match. Now, the fact of the matter is, the Shield are a very dominant team, but the one thing I have been considering is the idea of like this. While the Corporation are very strong indeed, and for the love of God they are strong, there is never a time in a corporation's history, or even a faction's history, in fact, even anything that dominates a brand, where that entity is unanimously perfect. That is one of the great things about life. You may think it's perfect, but little things just start chipping away at it, and then you get a royal mess by the end of it. And what's one thing is we can't see all the members of the corporation get a fantastic night. That's one of the reasons I keep thinking, where if one thing goes wrong in Triple H's little world of dominance, say the Shield losing their tag team titles, he will then find a way of ensuring they get them back because he's a douchebag. And that's exactly how it's going to be, in my eyes, if the WWE thinking right. They would put a little chink in the armour. They would make the Shield lose their titles, which makes them as a unit look a little bit less stable. But at the same time, it'll reinforce the idea that Triple H is going to continue to make himself strong and make his entire circle of power strong. That would be a good way of doing it, and it would also give new tag teams a rise. It would give them a chance to actually fight for the belts within themselves, with the primetime players as champions, if they do win, rather than having the Shield just completely crush and crush everyone in their path, which they have done since they won the titles. But then again, I just don't see that happening. I would love to see it happen. I'd love to. But unfortunately, the Shield are going to retain. I feel it's one of those situations where the Tag Team Tower Battle Royals are going to be winners, are going to be fatigued by this match. They're going to be fatigued. The Shield are going in fresh. So that's obviously going to play in. If they sell that, whoever wins this match goes against the Shield, and they sell that, that will be a primary thing. Because, okay, it's not very long. I'm guessing it's probably going to be the second match on the card, maybe. Or maybe even the third match. If it happens way too late, then I may say to myself, process of elimination, thinking, okay, screw it. It's going to be a primetime player with a chance here. But remember, if this happens earlier on in the card, you can pretty much bank on a heel victory. And I'm going to stick with that. I don't honestly think the faces have a chance. It's the Shield. Do I really need to say much? Speaking of the Shield, though, we next go on to the United States Championship. Dean Ambrose defending against Dolph Ziggler. Now, this, of course, ties in to the entire corporation thing. Ziggler spoke out, was one of the original people who spoke out, and he is going against one of the lackeys for Triple H in Dean Ambrose. Now, that shouldn't be used as a diminutive to put Dean Ambrose down, because he's a strong competitor and a strong champion. And honestly, I've said it before, he's one of the only champions who's actually honouring his deal. Right, Curtis Axel? Yeah, defending your title in 30 days of your last title defense. I'm sorry, but that's legitimately the rules, and you haven't done that, sir. Dean Ambrose has, and I've got to tip my hat off to him for that. The fact of the matter is, with Dolph Ziggler, one thing you always have to remember, if he goes for the head, you're in. The fact of the matter is, this matchup has a bit of build to it. Dean Ambrose has screwed over Ziggler a lot, beating him up before matches, leashing Ryback onto him. It is obvious to me that Dolph Ziggler has been made to look as weak as he possibly could, which inevitably says to me he's going to rise up in this match and kick Ambrose's ass. But remember the idea also. The Shield have an ability to go in and cover for Dean Ambrose, regardless of what happens. Ziggler can't attack the Shield. The Shield can attack him, and that's going to be a problem. If you factor that in, Ziggler might have the charisma and the crowd behind him to be able to do what he needs to do, and to be honest with you, I'm looking forward to this mostly because you get to see these two selling each other's moves so bloody perfectly. The problem is, I think the numbers game is going to stop Ziggler in this match. I don't think he's going to actually have a chance of getting much in, because he knows he can't attack the Shield if they're around him. They can kick his ass. He's going to feel the pressure of the numbers game on him. And Ambrose, being the smart, methodical guy he is, would know how to exploit it. And knowing the fact that his finishing move, a reverse bulldog DDT, that's going to hurt. That is going to hurt Ziggler's head. If that isn't the move that effectively wins this match and ends it right there and then, it's going to be hard to really believe that it could be anything else to kill off a match. Fact of the matter is, I just don't see Ziggler winning. And I know the Shield being dominant is a massive thing. I've already mentioned in the previous prediction. But for me, even if Dolph Ziggler was to win, the same thing would apply. Triple H would make sure and do anything to ensure the Shield get that back. And I'm just thinking to myself, at the end of the day, while Ziggler winning would be great, seeing him win the US title would be a step back for him. If he wants to be in the main picture of this entire anti-corporation feud by the time Survivor Series comes around, he will have to cast off this little area here. So I'm going to say Dean Ambrose for the win, I'm afraid. It looks like we might see a Ziggler win, and I would not be surprised if we do. But it just seems to me, in the way that the Shield operate, it's going to be a Dean Ambrose victory for me. Next, a fatal four-way match for the Divas Championship. From Total Divas and everything in between. It is, of course, AJ Lee defending against, I think, Naomi, Brie Bella, and Natalya. Now, this match has gotten a lot of us thinking. Because remember, we've heard the rumours for a while, stating that AJ is going to lose to a Total Divas member to ensure that the show gets higher ratings into the next season with one of them as champion. Now, that doesn't sound actually... it doesn't actually sound like it could be far off, because that would be a good way of saying, look, the Divas Champion's on this show. People who want to see the highlight of the women's division in WWE can see her on this show. It makes perfect sense for publicity. It makes the Divas title look like it's something important that these women are fighting for in their actual jobs, and it makes them have more sense of entitlement. The thing is, there is a problem. A lot of things have a problem, and that is, of course, you're stopping AJ from being champion. The Diva on top. The one thing I do have to worry is that, of course, she dropped what people are calling a pipe bomb, and yet she is still a heel. Now, this irritated me, because remember the match we saw, the six Diva tag we saw this past week on Raw? And we saw Brie Bella in the face corner with Natalya and Naomi. What? I'm sorry, but Brie Bella, the Bella twins, are never going to be faces. If you're trying to convince me that they are faces because they are Total Divas cast members, And just because of AJ's scathing words, you're trying to pass her off as a heel, despite the fact that we agree with it? We agree with what she's saying to the point where we could technically bow at her feet and, technically in some people's ideas, kiss them. The fact of the matter is, making the Bella Twins face in this makes no sense, because they are not faces. Look how they reacted. The other two people in this match were effectively standing there listening while the Bella Twins just yapping their trap off when AJ delivered her promo. Brie Bella is not a face. Do not tell us that she is when we know that she isn't. It crosses those lines of our brain. We're thinking, oh, what? So suddenly, just because the Divas were slagged off, they were faces now? It doesn't make sense to me. Anyway, there's only one Total Divas cast member out of the three who has a slim chance of winning, and that is, of course, Natalya, because she, of course, is the most technical and best wrestler on the show. So, if you're going to drop it to any of the three, it has to be Natalya. She is the face of the show, and therefore it would make sense. The one thing I would say is if Natalya wins, AJ would of course have to continuously rip them off and vent all the time and always just continue proving her point that she is better than those who are on the show. She would have to continue finding ways of insulting them, degrading them. But of course Natalya, with the Hart family in her blood, in her DNA, she is not one of them. And I'm waiting to see if she wins the title, to say, look, I didn't win this for the Total Divas. I didn't win this I won this for women's wrestling because I have the family heritage in me. And that's one thing we need to build on. She's not a technical member of this cast. She's better than the members of the cast. And the fact of the matter is, if AJ defends it and keeps the title, I could just see all the Total Divas cast members dragging her off and putting her on the show and basically making her like one of them, causing her to freak out and rage again, causing just mass chaos. Now that would make a fantastic season opener, wouldn't it, for Total Divas Season 2? I don't watch it, but that would be quite funny seeing AJ rebel against it all. But then again, that wouldn't be very good for me, because that would be the only thing I see coming from it. It would be very linear. It wouldn't branch off in any direction apart from her saying, look, you want another shot at me? I've been like you and I hated it. You're showing me why I hate you. Come on, you believe that you're the best wrestler, Natalya. Fight me. But the only way that could also be done is if Natalya doesn't get pinned. Because remember the problem I have with this match, other problem I have with this match is, you're trying to keep AJ strong. You're trying to keep Natalya strong as the figurehead of all this. Which means Naomi or Brie Bella have to get pinned. And Naomi's an up-and-comer who is impressing some people. So Brie Bella is the only person who AJ can pin, and it wouldn't affect anyone else. That's the only negative about all this. And honestly, I was debating this with NJ and Rico the other day. I don't really know where this one could go. I could see a defense or a title change, and it really wouldn't bother me much. Because other people say, oh, AJ has to keep it. She can't lose it. She can, only if WWE execute it right. And the fact of the matter is, guys, I really, really think that if AJ does retain, it will be so linear, it won't really go anywhere. But if she does, at least if she pins Brie, we'll be fine. But to me, Natalya is going to win. Because honestly, I look at the night and I see mostly heels winning, we need a face to win something, right? So give me a Natalya win, a pure wrestler winning this. It would just be good for all of us to see it. It would be brilliant. And that's one thing I can see. I can just see Natalya winning, and it would be long overdue. It'll make her much more important. Because if she doesn't win, and tries to make herself look important and bigging herself up in front of AJ, it wouldn't work. The fans wouldn't know how to accept it. And that wouldn't be good news at all. So I'm going to go for a Natalya victory to build her back up, and hopefully make AJ a little bit better on the rebound. Trust me, this should make things a little bit more interesting. Next, well, we've got the World Heavyweight Championship match between Alberto Del Rio and Rob Van Dam, with Ricardo Rodriguez in his corner. Now, the one thing that obviously puts this in RVD's favour for me, we, ladies and gentlemen, are in Michigan, which is basically code word for title change. If you're in your home state or hometown, you're pretty much bound to get a title change. However, the one thing that NJ and I kind of talked about in our Skype chat was the fact that, yeah, Beth Phoenix didn't win in New York a couple years back. Well, she should have. And the fact of the matter is, this gives me an idea, an opportunity, something good. And that is, of course, the one thing I can see coming from this match. RVD wins in Michigan. The fans go nuts. Their home state kid has just won the world title, coming back from WWE after not being there for many, many years. That would be great. A comeback gone right. And then Sandow comes in, Money in the Bank, win! After, of course, we see Del Rio completely annihilating him. And Rodriguez. That would be the easy way of getting a shit ton of heat on Sandow, because not only have you, one, beaten up RVD, second, won the world title off him, but also you've done it in his home state. The crowd are going to be booing the crap out of you. The internet are going to be booing the crap out of you in that regard, because they want to see RVD succeed, despite the fact they apparently hate part-timers. Hypocritical IWC. The fact of the matter is, that would be brilliant. Unfortunately, for some, it wouldn't be the right idea, because of course Del Rio has held it for a while. He does look dominant, and against RVD, for the most part, these two have looked kind of equal, but Del Rio keeps getting the upper hand. The balance of this would only require RVD to win for it to really make too much sense, but this feud has only just started. This is the first match in a feud, so something's got to give here, and I'm thinking to myself, Del Rio might have to hire someone in to help him, which would not be good, even though Ricardo isn't doing much help for RVD in the long run. Or many people have said, why could Ricardo turn on RVD and go back to Del Rio? One fault with that? Simple. You would not want to go back to a person who treated you so badly under their employment. That's the one thing I find in that logic. People are like, oh, Ricardo's going to turn on RVD. It's not going to happen. Because I would not want to think that a guy can get kicked in the head with the steel steps and then still want to work for them. I mean, it would be too ridiculous for even me to think would happen. So, yeah. Unfortunately, that situation is out of the window. So I've got a choice. I can either have an RVD happy moment victory with Sandow ruining it, or I can have Del Rio winning, extending the feud onwards. Or maybe having a dirty finish where Ricardo Rodriguez tries to attack, or does attack Del Rio, resulting in a DQ finish, and then RVD complaining to people, aka Triple H or Brad Maddox or Vicky Guerrero or whoever he wants to complain to, that it was an unjust victory, that Ricardo Rodriguez did that, and he wanted to enable himself to win clean. So therefore it builds up another match, a battleground or something like that. I mean, honestly, I would rather see Sandow capitalise on it, because honestly, the idea that RVD, of course, has been battling, and he has recent times, has had to battle against Triple H and his corporation. So, building that in, having Sandow kick his ass, win the title, go against him at Battleground, have a good match, and then, of course, goes on to the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, where a returning Cody Rhodes could screw Sandow if Sandow is affiliated with the corporation at the time. Because, of course, Sandow is, of course, in favour of all the Triple H bullcrap. So that would make sense. In the long term, having Sandow win would be great. But NJ did tell me they want to space out all the Money in the Bank wins. As Randy Orton has just won his, they don't want to do Sandow's for a while. But we don't want to get too impatient. But the benefit of that is that we are not as hyper excited about Sandow cashing in as we have been about Ziggler's last year. Because Ziggler, we wanted him to win the damn thing for every single pay-per-view since he won the briefcase. Okay? And we got so desperate, didn't we? So the fact of the matter is, Sandow doing it now would be a complete shock, because we wouldn't see it coming, and WWE likes it when we don't see things coming. However, I have already seen it coming, and because you're listening to this, you've also seen it coming, because I've told you, and in fact, if you thought it up already, well done to you. The fact of the matter is, it would be brilliant, and the home crowd advantage is automatic. If Van Dam does not win here, I will be surprised, because remember, Del Rio's held that thing for a while. He's been quite dominant since he won it back in June, I think. No, was it June? No, I think he won it back in May. I can't remember if it was May or June. Correct me in the comments section, everybody. Honestly, to me, an RVD win seems right. He's been on a roll. He's been winning most of his matches. Van Dam's pretty much there. He's won number contendership matches. He's won opportunities against people. He's won against most of the wrestlers he's faced on the roster, minus the WWE champion. He's done it all. And he's now got probably the most over face manager on his side. So, what is there that he can't do? And I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go for an RVD win, but the Sandow cash-in I am not entirely sold on. It might happen, but for the love of God, if it does, Michigan will want to kill him afterwards. Which actually would make quite entertaining television for us watching at home. Anyway, let's all move on to the next match then. CM Punk going against Curtis Axel and Paul Heyman in an elimination handicap match. Here's a question, speaking of the note I made about Dean Ambrose earlier in the night. Curtis, you haven't defended since the SmackDown after Money in the Bank. Please explain why you are still champion, because you haven't contested your title in a title defense for more than 30 days. Technically, you've broken the rules, and you therefore shouldn't be holding the championship. And technically, to be honest with you, you should have lost it by now, because Kofi Kingston is on the front of the poster holding that championship. Why are you still the champ? Honestly, this match is annoying to me. I want to see it, but the ways in which this feud can go is just annoying for me to really contemplate. You know why? Because the way it's been built, Punk is going to whoop ass and then some. I, as a Punk mark, do not want to see it. Because, okay, we've seen Heyman get the upper hand on Punk 2 pay-per-views running. And people say, oh, it's boring. Punk's not getting his upper hand. He has whooped ass on every single chance he can get. And he's looked more strong now than he has done in the build-up to other feuds in the last year. Okay, sure, he looked very strong in build to Undertaker, but since then he didn't look the best. Even against Jericho, coming in for the match, he wasn't really hyped up as being the best competitor for the job. And the one thing I know is that this feud will eventually recur with Brock Lesnar involved. This is the thing, though. Heyman will have to make Punk lose against him, and that's not going to happen. Heyman is not going to grow a set of balls and fight Punk. He's been running shitless scared from him, and that's a massive issue, because he's going to have to get Lesnar involved to make this work. And because this will be a disqualification match scenario, it couldn't happen without a DQ happening, which would then probably allow something between Heyman and Punk to happen at Battleground, which someone then screws out of, which I'm guessing would be Lesnar, when interference would continuously go on. And then, of course, it would evolve into the Hell in a Cell match between Lesnar and Punk that we both and all want to see. The fact of the matter is, that's going to take a lot of work. You're going to have to make this match as clusterfucked and as convoluted as possible to make it work. And honestly, I don't really know how it's going to happen. I don't know how we're going to do this. I don't know how we're going to see Heyman coming out victorious unless Lesnar hits F5 or Curtis Axel, after being eliminated, comes in and exacts his revenge for the 3 consecutive losses on Raw that he's had. And, you know, Heyman is probably going to crawl and get the victory somehow, but you know what? This feud has been built so strongly in favour of Punk, and honestly, Curtis Axel is going to lose first. He's going to be eliminated by Punk, just like he has done ever since this thing started. He's faced Punk 3 times on Raw and lost all 3. That's a problem, because we can't take Axel seriously no matter how much Heyman will hype it to us. We aren't taking him seriously, and honestly, it doesn't come across well as him as IC champion. He hasn't been defending against people for the championship as well. Honestly, it's irritating, because Punk winning is so obvious, and the fact he's guaranteed it, it just gives me an inkling that, you know, WWE are probably going to screw him out of it anyway, and I'm probably going to be proved wrong by predicting a Punk victory anyway. But I just don't understand why they would make it so strong with Punk to make Punk lose. That doesn't make sense. And plus, I've mentioned already, at this point, there is going to be little face success on this pay-per-view. If RVD wins, then loses, and then of course you've got Natalya and the primetime players, there isn't much face victories on this pay-per-view. You need one extra to round it out, because in my opinion, I'm going to mention this in a bit, Daniel Bryan doesn't stand too much of a chance. So you have to balance it out and think, Punk has to win this. By process of elimination, you need to round out an equal amount of face and an equal amount of heel victories. And in this case, Punk's got it in the bag. I mean, if Heyman does win this, it's going to happen because of Axel, because of Heyman. God, it would not happen because of himself. Good God, no. It'll happen because of Axel, Lesnar, whoever else he wants. It will be insane. If Heyman manages to win and get the cover like he did against the Hardy Boys back in Judgment Day 2002, if you remember that match, give me a thumbs up. The fact of the matter is, if that does happen, I'm going to be stunned because it would just seem so ridiculous. I'd be wondering just how they would continue the feud. Would it be Punk versus Heyman on pay-per-view with no restrictions? Maybe in a barbed wire ropes match or something, so these two could... No one's going to come in against that, and they could just beat the crap out of each other. You know, or something even more ridiculous, like a steel cage, or whatever. That's probably not going to happen, because this is so evident that Punk is going to win, but there is that inkling that it's not going to happen, and it's... I've got to make a prediction on this, don't I? I'll go for the Punk victory. I just can't see it any other way. But knowing how the feud has been built, it's gonna have to go the other way, though, as well. And, I'm probably not gonna be right with this. I'm probably not gonna be happy with and saying that I'm not gonna be happy with which result it goes with in a Punk match. That says something, because that shows, guys, I am impartial here. I am a Punk fan. I'm also a Heyman fan, but I'm going to be unhappy whichever way this goes. I'm going to be unhappy if Punk wins, because it would just be so obvious, but it would be hurtful to see Heyman win, because to be honest with you, even though it wouldn't be seen coming, it wouldn't really make too much sense, because it, you know, it would just look really cheap, and a heel victory in a show that might be full of heel victories would be challenging to really take seriously. So I would go for the Punk victory, and that will be that. Now we get to the main event. This match, which is practically selling this pay-per-view on its own if Punk hadn't guaranteed he's going to whoop Heyman's ass and punch his face in. It is, of course, Randy Orton versus Daniel Bryan for the WWE Championship. Now this... I've said it multiple times. I said it about the match against John Cena at SummerSlam. It could have turned into a clusterfuck, and it didn't. This one will be. You can pretty much guarantee this is going to be a multiple-layer clusterfuck. I mean, honestly, where can we start? I mean, Triple H, to begin with, is hard enough to ignore. He's probably going to be in Orton's corner. Not to mention the Shield are going to be on tap, available to whoop ass. You've got Stephanie McMahon controlling the Big Show. What the... I mean, you look at the odds against Bryan, it does not look good. And especially after last week on Raw, with Daniel Bryan standing atop Orton with that championship, and on SmackDown with him in the Yes Lock. And it looks like O'Brien's fought back, he's got the confidence, the fans are behind him, he's gonna win. It's so poetically right, and the IWC are getting what they want, because they want to see him win the championship back so badly. Unfortunately for you IWC Daniel Bryan marks out there, this is not going to happen. Because this is a long-term feud, and if I've said this already in 2 blog posts and a video, if Daniel Bryan wins, this feud will ground to a halt instantaneously. And I don't know what that sound was, but screw it. The fact of the matter is, guys, Daniel Bryan is not going to win. This is a long-term feud. We need to see it drawn out. We, as fans, want to see the corporation get their ass kicked. And honestly, if we don't have that desire, that anticipation and anger against these heels build up, we won't see it. We will just go, yay, Daniel Bryan's won, and the feud will just peter out. This is going to go until Survivor Series at the earliest. If it's going to go any longer, it'll go into the Royal Rumble. And that, the amount of ideas that are going into my head as of what could happen is greatly lots. And that's not very good summing up, but I'm tired, it's gone half midnight, and I'm just rambling. I've got no script here. The fact is, guys, if I can recompose myself, Survivor Series is where this is obviously going to. A Survivor Series elimination match, or a title match, or on a big stage, Bryan can win the title at a Big Four. That makes sense to me. And honestly, to see Orton win in dirty circumstances would only be the start of the domino effect. the corporation would start to get people rising up against him after seeing Bryan do well. It will then go to Battleground, where more interference happens. But this time, it could happen on the side of, well, Daniel Bryan. You've got Cody, Big Show snapping after having enough, Ziggler, RVD, Miz. I mean, you've got loads of people who could enter in this to go against the corporation. But of course, what would that result in? Orton versus Bryan in a Hell in a Cell match to ensure no one goes in. That Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. Then, of course, Orton would probably win that due to some kind of technicality, or maybe a double knockout or something. The fact that then comes after that of a Survivor Series tag team match or singles match, it would have to be around that. Bryan would have to be booked so strong to make us believe he still has a hope in hell of doing this that we would need to keep ourselves going. And we can't have all this happen if he doesn't lose here. Now, I'm a massive Daniel Bryan fan, everyone knows. But I can see what this feud needs. And WWE know what this feud needs. The fans want Bryan to win. But if Orton wins so cheaply, so dirtily, it would be perfect for the way this storyline goes. It'll be perfect for the way this entire match history goes. And not to mention the fact this is not the first time we've seen these two on TV this year doing matches. We know we're in for something good. I don't really care if it goes into an overblown clusterfuck trying to tell psychology and story well, but it'll be something, right? I mean, honestly, if you get pissed off and angry that Daniel Bryan doesn't win on Sunday night, you are stupid. I'm sorry. If Daniel Bryan doesn't win here at Night of Champions and you are angry, you don't know narrative structure for shit. You were not happy when Austin didn't win against the McMahons. But the fact of the matter is, he fought back. And Daniel Bryan is a strong-willed son of a bitch. He will fight back, and he'll have people on his side after testing the patience of the corporation. He will have the crowd behind him. He will feel after that match that he will be indestructible after that. He will know that they will do anything to ensure they get their victory, and he will do anything to ensure that he can go against them and keep fighting. We want to see this. But unfortunately for all of you who are so impatient, we won't get to see it. If you impatient assholes get your way, this storyline will go to crap quickly. And I don't want to see that, because this entire feud has made me feel like a casual fan again. I have been booing the heels, cheering the faces the entire way through. And it's made me feel like I'm properly back into wrestling again. Properly. And you know what? To have that snatched away because some smart fans think that they know what's best, or love Daniel Bryan, that they hate to see him lose. He's smaller than Austin. He is not as strong as Austin. You can't expect him to fight back instantaneously. This is what makes him a fucking great underdog, and that's what's going to make this storyline so special for his career and our viewing when we see him win eventually. But Night of Champions is not the time. Night of Champions is too soon. Night of Champions is not the place. And if you disagree, you know where you can stick your opinions. The fact of the matter is, Daniel Bryan is going to lose this whichever way you look at it. If you predict Daniel Bryan, you are a little bit messed up in the head. I'm just saying, if you can't get the narrative structure of how these kind of feuds go, then you lose points for me. I'm sorry if that angers some of you, but this is one of those kinds of feuds where if it continues to be executed in the way I believe it will be, this is going to be one of those great feuds that we're going to remember for years to come. And I do not want to see it ruined because of idiot fans who think that Daniel Bryan getting beaten down week after week is bad. I mean, he fought back this week. What more do you need? Honestly, if he fights back after the pay-per-view on Monday Night Raw this week, it will be okay, because he will know he'll be able to, after enduring the crap the night before, and knowing what to do to fight back. So guys, come on. Say it with me. Randy Orton will retain the WWE Championship. Say it with me. Randy Orton will retain the WWE Championship. Okay? You got that? You understand? Good. Thank you for your patience. And if I've angered some of you, I really don't care, because honestly, it's my opinion. You can have yours. but I don't understand why you would think Daniel Bryan could win this. Just because you're fans of him does not mean your optimism levels have to be cranked up to 11, because sometimes that is not the way to go. And guys, I'm done with my predictions there. I hope you've enjoyed listening for the last 37 or so minutes, and the fact of the matter is, well, this is what I'm doing. My analysis is unscripted, it's holy as hell difficult to keep up with, and everything else goes nuts. Anyway, if you like what you've been seeing, click the like button down there, and if you want to see more up-to-date videos, including the review on Monday morning or afternoon, I have to decide personally, but either way you'll be getting it. All you have to do is click that subscribe button down there, and I really appreciate it that you guys subscribe to my channel. It makes me feel really happy, and it makes all my analysis and all my hard work worth it. Also, speaking of my analysis, you can go to my Blogspot account, which is down there in the description box, and it'll be referenced again in the credit sequence. So yes, go to my Blogspot account and check out my blogs, Tuesday and Thursday. Thursday being major questions, which will be my Thursday thoughts, and of course, Tuesday will be looking at the fallout from Monday Night Raw and seeing how things go with that. And of course, you can check out my Facebook and my Skype, also down there in the description box below. In fact, to be honest with you, they're on your screen right now, because I just remembered there is no credits sequence anymore. Yay! Anyway, guys, I have been Cream Crazy. You have been people listening, watching, whatever you've been doing. Sensory deprivationing, I don't know. And I will see you next time. Also, please subscribe to my CCVGP channel. Content will be up very soon. Cheers, guys. See you soon. See you Monday. And I hope you enjoy the pay-per-view as much as I am going to.